Hi, today is 21st of October 2019 and today's topic will be 800 ADM, or more specifically GTX 800 ADM, and whether or not is it worth it in 2019. Now, if you're on the look for a gaming laptop and you probably came across different kind of models like Max Q model, 1060, 1080, now RTX, and you think that's just a bit too expensive for my taste, and then you happen to come to 900 series, 800 series, 950, 980, 970, 880, 870, and you're thinking, are these GPUs even worth it anymore? I own Asus ROG G11050GZ since 2014, and it's been 5 years in September, I think, or October. So I think I have a pretty good background in what this GPU can offer and whether or not it's worth it. I'm also quite I've also checked a lot of other forums. I've been very active on the forums whenever the question was about 800 ADM. I also have my laptop modded, my GPU is overclocked, my laptop is stacked to the full, I know it inside out, and I'm just all around very knowledgeable when it comes to the said GPU. Now, I'm yapping, and I still didn't give you any info, so let's begin. Basically, GTX 800 ADM graphics card. In 2019, it's worth it. It's worth it under the condition that the unit in which the GPU is being sold, or if you're upgrading your Alienware or Origin laptop or Seeger laptop, is cheap. Why? Well, first of all, it's outdated architecture. The last available graphics drivers you can get are 4 to 5.25, I think, or 0.16, something like that. And any drivers beyond that are not officially supported anymore. However, if you still want to have your latest drivers installed, then you need to use the modified drivers, which you can actually get and install them and use your GPU that way. For my personal laptop, that did not work. I don't know why. Drivers would install and everything would work, but the 3D clocks wouldn't clock in. So if you're worried about that, then don't go for it. Now, when should you worry about that? You should worry about your drivers if you are doing something that really requires latest framework. Maybe you are CAD engineer or doing 3D graphics and need GPU acceleration and it simply won't work without newer drivers. In that case, don't go for 800 AM. If you're playing games and you really need to play all the latest titles immediately, God forbid you don't have all the possible frames, don't buy this GPU. But if you're like me who plays, if I go to my Steam, like CSGO, Fallout 4, Skyrim, Bioshock Infinite, Witcher, games like that, maybe some new titles that are gonna come out, or like Assassin's Creed Origins, Metro Exodus, then yeah, GPU is perfectly fine. And if you think you won't be able to get playable performance, you definitely will. At 1080p, 30 FPS is guaranteed. Now, while speaking of 30 FPS, let's just jump into the performance. What can you actually expect from this GPU in 2019? Despite limited driver support, they don't really matter, because Nvidia is gimping old GPUs. Even if you have desktop 700 series, even if you have Maxwell, hell, even Pascal cards are being gimped down just to show their newest Volta or whatever it's called in the best light possible. So unless you have RTX, your drivers will be gimped. That's simply how it is. You may watch online benchmark comparisons. People say, well, it's 1 to 5% margin of error. Yeah, but that margin of error keeps increasing. While AMD on the other hand, AMD actually improves their drivers. And like if you look at RTX, actually RX 580, versus 1060 GTX. GTX 1060 when it came out, it was like 15% better. Now it's 20% worse than RX 580 because Nvidia actually decreases the performance with new drivers and AMD actually improves them. So if you're worried about that, like any GPU unless the latest one will be gimped, so that's pointless. Now how it performs in games. Right now I'm using 390.16 drivers because I was doing some tests, but you can use the latest one. It's fine, like it doesn't matter. In my opinion, if you get 5 FPS more, it's big for me, but for average user it's probably not. But you can test it yourself, it doesn't really matter. Basically with 390 drivers, I can in Witcher 3 for example, while it's old game, I think it's a good benchmark too. I'm getting about, on high settings, with a lot of graphically intensive mods, and with overclock I am getting, I would say 50 frames on average on 1080p. Everything on high, shadows on medium, without any hairworks of course, and post-processing also, everything is on. Now you can overclock this GPU. I personally have very good overclock abilities because I'm using a custom BIOS. If you have Asus ROG, you can actually use this BIOS and overclock it yourself. And my overclock is basically, now I have different overclocks. On stock it's only undervolted, and if I want I can put 70 Hertz more on core and 400 Hertz more on memory. This is like at 1 volt. And if I overclock it heavily, which is like 100 and let me just check, 150 Hertz on megahertz on core and 650 megahertz on memory with 100 millivolts, I can actually get like 15 frames more, which is essentially 970 M, even 980 M performance. And to be more familiar in desktop territory, that's about 1050 Ti, somewhere in there. So from 5-year-old GPU, I think that's pretty damn impressive. Now you may wonder, how are you dealing with the temperatures? If I have it overclocked, I use my max fans. Basically, I set my fans to the max speed, because otherwise there's no way to keep the heat down. And I also have a mod for my laptop. I drilled holes on the bottom plate. You can see a video on my channel about that. And with those two things, my GPU never reaches, it reaches about 82 degrees Celsius. With this massive overclock, which is pretty impressive. Otherwise, everything on stock, I am running 78. This is with like 23 degrees Celsius ambient. If it's like, if you actually have it colder, or like when it's winter, it's gonna be like 75. And yeah, like, but I am using a stock thermal paste. I mean stock, I'm using like normal liquid paste, thermal paste, like Arctic Silver 4 for VRAMs, and for the actual chip I'm using Noctua. If you use liquid metal, which I used in past, you will get even better frame, like you will get 5 degrees lower. So in the end you'll have like 75 with max overvolt and about 70 with with like stock clock, so it's really worth it. So like if you're wondering whether or not you should get 880M in 2019, for the right price, definitely. Now again, what is right price? For me personally, if you get a whole laptop unit for about 500 euros, I'd say that's pretty worth it. 600 is kinda pushing it, but 500-600 for 880M unit is definitely worth it. While we're still on this track of GPUs, the next how would I say, the next GPU that's worth buying, you should just skip 900 series completely and go for 10 series. So 1050 Ti. But it's funny because on laptop 1050 has worse performance than 880M, and 1050 Ti is about the same performance, like laptop variant. So if you're upgrading, the best upgrade is like 1070, because 1060 is better than 880M, but like just a tiny bit. So if you're upgrading, go for 1070 or RTX. If you're buying completely new, used laptop, 500, 600 euros with 880M, definitely worth it. This is just my personal opinion, because I've been using this laptop for 5 years now. So I actually know what I'm talking about, at least I hope I do. As you can see, my videos are pretty much focused on this card. And although I didn't really upload any new videos lately, it's because I was fucking really busy with college. And now I'm kinda done, so I'll maybe start making videos again. But yeah, this is just like short informational video for those who are maybe like looking for 880M and should you or should you not buy it. And I hope this video helped you. Again, if you have any comments, questions, feel free to ask me in the comment section below, and till the next time.